Hello, everyone. This is Alex. I see we got some people already on the line and some more joining. Um, Let me know if you guys can hear me okay. I'm using a new microphone, so I'm not sure if this sounds good or not. So if you could comment in the little question box there. And then in the meantime, I'm going to bring that up here. Okay, we already got some questions in there. Can you guys hear me okay? Okay, great. So Charles says you can hear. Hey, how you doing, Charles? Yep, a lot of people say sounds good. All right. So, and then the other question I have, do you guys see my screen? Uh, okay, you see the screen. All right, great. So we're going to start these calls. They're going to be weekly, or pretty much twice a week. Starting today, and then we're going to do Mondays and Thursdays at the same time, every single time. I am recording this call, and we will post this somewhere and send it out to you if you're unable to attend. And how these are going to work is basically I'm going to spend the first 5-10 minutes explaining a couple things and some common questions that I get, some common things that you should be aware of, and then I'll just open it up for questions. I already see we got some questions here, so I'm going to start with those, and then we'll go from there. These are going to be half-hour calls. If I don't get to all the questions on these calls, then you can just, I'll send you the answers later on, or I will. You can jump on the next call, which would be the next Monday or Friday. There's only one Monday that we won't be doing this call, and you can see that on the schedule there. So I will be out of town that week. All right. So having said that, let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to close out this question window here for a second, and I just want to show you a couple things. So we got a lot of new users, which is great. And when you're a new user, there's a couple things that you want to do if you haven't done it already. And I want to kind of go over that since this is the first of these calls that we're doing recently. Just real quick, an overview here. When you log in, you're going to see a virtual tour come up. I do suggest that you go through that virtual tour. It shows you around the software, around the basics. But when you're done with that, if you want to turn that tour off, there's some buttons on the dashboard here that says, enable virtual tour, and you can click no, and then the virtual tour goes away forever unless you turn it back on. The other way to get to it is under your profile. So if you click under my profile, you can actually disable the tour right here. All right, so I wanted to go over that. And the other thing is, just in generally speaking, the Investment Dominator is split up into two main sections. One is land, one is houses. Now, I know most of the new users here are interested in doing our land because they've purchased the Land Profit Generator recently. So whenever you're working in land, you just want to make sure you're always under this green section here, which is land, because on the house section, which is the blue section, up here, house deals, land deals. If you're under the house section, we actually have different statuses, different paperwork, different calculators. And so, for example, I just want to show you that even though the layout of the pages looks similar, like we have add record, import, export, generate documents, and then under land deals, we have the same add record, import, export, generate documents. Even though they look the same, other than the color of the table here, they do perform different actions. So you want to, right off the bat, you want to make sure that you're uploading your list to the correct section. So if it's a land list, you want to go under land deals first, then click import and upload it here. Okay, so that's number one. The other thing is, before you do your very first mailing, there's a couple of housekeeping items you got to do in order for you to generate your letters properly and do your first mailing. So the first order of business is you want to go to the customized site area, and everything under where it says company information, you want to fill this out because this is not only used in your letter that you're going to send out in the beginning, but it's also used on your website and things like that. The other note that I want to say here is you want to use a phone number, probably not your cell phone, probably a redirected number or something like a Vumber number or a Ring Central number. Those all work. Something other than your personal phone number. Then you want to also put in some kind of a company name. If you don't have an official company name, like an LLC or an Inc. or anything like that, you could use just a DBA, or you could put your website in there. So if you have a website that you're going to be doing business under, just go ahead and put your buying website there as well. That's going to show up on your letters, but it just kind of looks a little bit more official. But you do want to fill that out. And then the address, again, I don't suggest that you put your home address or anything like that. These letters are marketing letters that you're sending out at the end of the day. And so you want to put something in there like a suite box, or like if you have an account with, for example, earthclassmail.com, which is gives you an address and it scans all your mail. You can use something like that, or a FedEx box or a UPS store box. Those work great. All right, I don't suggest a PO box because they just look kind of like bulk mail when you see it on the letters. So something that looks like a real address, but it's not your own address. So fill that out. If you are a real estate agent or broker, you want to click yes. Most people are not, so they just click no here. If you are, it just adds a disclosure to your letters and your website that you're going to have. So that's pretty simple to fill out, but you definitely want to do that before you generate your letters. The next thing is, and this is where I'm going to show you a little bit of a tutorial here, because I do get some questions quite a bit from new users about this, you want to go over to My Profile and you want to set the signature. Now, this is what I want to show you, because one of the common, I guess, misconceptions here is that this signature should be your exact signature. And that's actually not true. It can be something like your signature, but if you think about how we're using this signature, it's going to be, at the end of the day, put on our neutral letter, which is more like a marketing piece, right? So the point of the signature is for it to look like a signature. So when somebody reads your letter, it's like, oh, this person took the time to sign it. But it doesn't have to be your signature. And that's the key thing, because you don't necessarily want to take all the time to put your real signature in there, because number one, these letters are going to be floating around somebody's house until they call you. The other thing is the whole purpose of it is more of a marketing purposes. It's not a legal purpose. When you get to the stage where you're actually making the offer itself, we don't use this signature. And I always get the question, okay, well, if you're using one signature to sign the letters and another signature at closing, don't the people get upset, or they call you out on that or something? And we've done, over 3,000 deals. We've never had that issue come up. So the answer is no, that I've seen. I'm sure there's somebody out there that would ask about it, but a lot of times, they don't even have that letter saved by the time you get to the closing stage, where you're actually using your real signature at that point. And then also, when you're signing those paperwork, you might be signing it as a manager of a LLC or something like that. So people don't pay attention that much to things like this. So if you've ever gotten like a letter from a bank, of a CEO of a bank, and they want you to sign up for a credit card or something like that, and the CEO signs it, that may not be his real signature, right? It probably wouldn't be beneficial for that, but it does look like a signature. So that's what you want to do. Now, having said that, the question I always get is, how do you create this signature? And before I answer that, I want to point you over to our help section, because and explain a little bit about that. So under the help section here, if you click on help, it's always going to be here on the top right. If you're on a mobile phone or a smaller device where you don't have all this space up here at the top, then you're only going to see the icon. So you only see this little chat box. You won't see the words help. So that's you'll notice that if your screens, and I can show you that by zooming in, if your screen is quite small, you only see the icons. So the help icon looks like this little chat box, but it also says help if you're in a much larger screen. Okay, so that's the first thing. And let me just make sure. Okay, I'm just checking the questions come in. And one of the things is right here in the top, one of the first links is our user guide, and I just clicked on that. It opens up this section right here, which is a separate website, but it's where we keep all of the help articles regarding the Investment Dominator. We're always adding new ones to this, and this is not in any particular order. So for example, this first article up here is not like the first thing that you need to do. It's just there's a bunch of articles on here, and more than anything, you want to search for stuff. So if you want to search for how to import, you might type in import, and you come in here like how to import your house list or how to import your list for land. You click on it, and then it comes up with the article for that. The other question I get quite a bit is some of these videos have voiceovers, like I'm talking on them, narration, if you want to call it that. And some of them are just plain screencast videos, which basically is showing you what I'm doing. Okay, so like this is an example of I'm not saying anything here. I'm just showing you what I'm clicking on. Okay, so and that's designed that way, and we design it that way because we might make slight edits to the software, and if we do, like different, renaming stuff, then it's easier for us to fix a video like that than it is for us to fix a video that has narration. So over time, we will actually add more and more narrated videos, but this is kind of like why we're doing this live class, so you can hear me talk and hear me or see my screen showing you what to do. But as far as the user guide goes, a lot of these videos don't have any type of narration. They're more of showing you the steps, and the articles next to them kind of go through what I'm doing on the videos itself. So both of those together should kind of point you in the right direction on where you need to go, what you need to click on. So I wanted to point that out. The other thing is anything regarding our API documentation is going to be over here. If you don't know what API is, don't worry about it and just kind of forget about that. But if you do know what an API is and you have you've had an experience with it, check it out, because we have a very good API, if I do say so myself, and it allows you to do a lot of custom stuff if you want to go the custom direction. For people that are brand new to the software, don't know what API is, don't get hung up on this, because the software is built around Jack's technique. So everything that's kind of given to you by default is exactly what we use. Anything that we allow you to customize is something that really is kind of untested, right? So if you create a new letter because you don't like our letter, that new letter is not tested. So we always recommend that if you're brand new to the system and brand new to Jack's techniques, that you just use what we put in there, because those are the things that we've tested. The other thing I want to bring out is we have two different places to ask questions, and I want to tell you what the difference is. This one right here on the left-hand side that's green, it's basically for quick questions, like if you want us to point you to a user guide article, you want to put your name and the email that you log in with. That's kind of a key thing. The reason why you want to put in that email address is so that it attaches to your history. I don't know if you can see this on the bottom of my screen. There's a history tab, and if you don't use the same email, then that is your admin email, then it's not going to attach in here when when we pull it, when you log in here. So it's good if you want a history of it, put in the email that you actually log into the Investment Dominator with. And then this would be for quick questions like, where do I find the article on how to import, or how do I import? And we will answer back with probably a link, over to something like this. Now, if you have a more detailed question, or if it's something a little bit more advanced, like you want me to look at your list, or you want us to actually go into your application and take a look at something, then click the middle option here, which says to report an issue. This is a little bit more of an advanced ticket, and it allows you to do a couple more things. First of all, you can describe it a lot better because it gives you a lot more space to describe it. You can give us a link to the problem or the issue or what you want us to look at. You can also upload a screenshot if you want, and you can also upload an attachment. So that, for example, in the case of you're trying to import a list and you're not quite sure why it says that it doesn't read the list, you can actually upload that list that you're trying to import into the Investment Dominator, we'll take a look at it and let you know exactly why it's not letting you import it. Okay, so that's a little bit more. Now, one thing I also want to bring out is because these are two separate sections, the history of them is separate. So if you click on the green box here, the history below that is whatever you had submitted under this green box. If you click on the blue box, the history below this is what you have submitted through the blue box. Okay, so there are two separate sections, and the history for them are below. The other thing is, if a lot of you guys have really great suggestions, you know, where you're going through the software, you're like, oh, it'd be great if it had this feature. We're always looking at that. We're always trying to improve on the software. So click on this one that says have a suggestion. It brings you over to this form, and please take the time to fill this out. Don't submit it as a support question. Please submit it as a feature suggestion, because we actually are monitoring this separately, and there's almost like a voting process in terms of how many people are requesting similar type of features, and that would determine whether it gets bumped up on the development list or not. So we're constantly adding new updates. I mean, the last update that we did was literally 3 days ago. These are small changes and things, so we don't necessarily create a big, press release about it or anything, but we're always constantly improving the software, testing it, and it's based on your suggestions. Originally, when we first started, a lot of these customization features over here did not exist. So all this was added based on the suggestion of users just like you. Okay, so I just wanted to cover those three things, because if you're new, you might be a little bit confused on where to go if you need some help, and you might be used to, like, just calling our regular number for support, or going to Jackbox support to ask questions. And you can go to Jackbox support, but if it's related to the Investment Dominator, please go take the time to log into the Investment Dominator and go into the help section and report it here, because everything is tracked to your account. Everything is, it allows us, in the case of the middle option here, allows us to go into your account if need be and check things out if that's what it requires, which speeds up the entire process. All right, having said that, let's go back to what I was talking about, which is how to set your signature. And if you are on the user guide and you type in signature, I believe I have a tutorial on this, how to create and upload your signature. Okay, so here is the video on this, and this is what I'm going to show you. So if you're under my profile and you want to create this signature, the best way to do it, the easiest way that we've found, is to go to this website called sketch.io/sketchpad. Okay, and it loads up here. This is a free software. It's a third-party software. It's not something that we own or anything. But what it allows you to do is to draw out your signature, right? Because when you go here, it gives you a blank canvas, and you can actually go to this website from a computer or a cell phone if you want to use your finger, or if you have like a one of those note tablets where you have a little stylus. You could use that if you want. It's not mandatory or anything. Or you could just go to it on a computer like I am here. And then what you want to do when you get here is click on the pen tool, and you want to choose a color. Now we choose black or blue, so blue is nice. Now the size of your ink or pen, I should say, virtual pen, digital pen, should be a little thick. So it should be like this. You definitely don't want a thin one. You want a thick one. So let's just say you want to have a point, or let's say you want a size 12 or 13. So right here it says 12. I would just type that in under size here, and then that's what you're going to be using. So once you got that in order, what you want to do is click and drag, and as you drag, it's going to write. So if I click and I drag, I get a line. And if I hit undo at the top here, I can undo that line. So now that I know that if I click and drag, something happens, I'm just going to click and drag out and draw out my signature. So you can do something like this. And again, I'm not trying to recreate my signature entirely. I'm trying to get it to look like a signature. That's the key. I do suggest that you use at least a mouse to do this. a computer mouse, because it gives you a lot more ability to draw things out. But you can just keep doing this until you get a signature that looks pretty cool. And like, I mean, like that's not my signature, but it looks decent enough, so I would just use that. And the other thing that you want to do is you can click the selection tool, click on your signature, and you can actually resize it a little bit if you want. So I would resize it down to about the size it's going to show up on the letter. And all this white space over here, that's actually perfectly fine to use. Keep it all in there. Don't crop it or anything like that. Don't get too creative. This is actually what you want to use. And when you're done, you want to click export at the top. And then you want to go over here to save JPEG. And then once you save that JPEG, it actually automatically downloads it to your downloads folder. Okay. So now once you've got your download, you saved it to your computer, all you have to do is go back into the Investment Dominator and click Choose File. So again, we're under My Profile. I'm going to hit Choose File, and then I'm going to go under my Downloads, wherever that may be, Downloads, and then there should be something in here called Drawing something, Drawing 6, and when I select that, what happens is there's a little crosshair on this screen, and what you want to do is click and drag, and it's going to drag a selection box, and you can center it by clicking in the middle of it and moving it to a good spot in that crop area. So once that's done, you want to click Confirm. And if you already had a signature set like me, you'll see that it says, okay, you're replacing this one with this one. But in order to do that, you actually want to hit Update. So scroll to the bottom and hit Update. And now I've saved my signature. Okay? So just to recap real quick, when you're a brand new user, you want to come over here to Customize Site, fill in the information under Company Information, and then go under My Profile and set your signature. Okay? If you do those two things, then and then the third thing would be to upload your list. Obviously, you need some prospects in your program to start with. Once you do that, you can go in here back to your land deals. You can go to Generate Documents, and you're good to go to generate your neutral letters, which is the first step, the very first step you got to do in order to send out your letters. And you've got your letters here. They're all mail merged. They've got your signature. You can just hit print on your printer, print all those out. And same thing with your envelopes. You just download those and hit, you want to change the tray on your printer to an envelope tray, and then stick some envelopes in there and print those out. Okay? I do suggest that you try one or two at the in the beginning. Make sure everything is working good, and then if you print the first one, it looks good, then go ahead and hit print on all the other ones. Typically, a home printer is only going to print 15 at a time anyways. All right, so that's all I wanted to show you in terms of a little tutorial. It went a little bit longer than I expected, but since this is a first call like this, I did want to spend a little bit time on this, going over the basics. And then now let's go over to some questions and see what we got here. So, all right, so if my list has multiple properties under, let's say, an LLC, could I delete those properties down to maybe one or two that I could get more mailings out? The mailings only send out one for each name, and then they call to make sure that they have multiple properties. Okay, so Carla, yeah, good question. I think this question comes from maybe you're using like you're getting your list, let's say, from a source like Agent Pro 247. So Agent Pro, for example, is one of the list brokers out there. You can get obviously the list from all different places, all kinds of different places. But Agent Pro, one of the things is they don't necessarily, I believe they don't have a filter for just exporting a single owner. Like you can't deduplicate your list prior to exporting it. So you would actually have to manually uncheck it, I believe. So if there was an owner, like an LLC in this case, owned 10 properties, you're actually going to see 10 records in Agent Pro. And if you don't manually unselect 9 of them, then when you export them, they're going to just export as 10 different records. Now, if you take, let's say that you just export it as is and you don't do any manual work in Agent Pro, what happens is, since there are companies like LLCs and things like that that own quite a bit of property, let's say that it's like a developer that owned a bunch of lots. They went bankrupt, but they own like 30 lots. And so you definitely do want to contact that person to try to see if you can buy those properties. But if you have 30 records in your list, all for the same owner, they're all different properties, but they're all for the same owner, what's going to happen when you go to land deals and then import is it's going to, let me just see if I can, give me 1 second here. Let's see. Properties. Let me just pick a list here. So land record. So it's going to say something like this. It's going to give you existing owners. In this case would be like in the case that I'm giving you where there's a company that has 30 properties. It'll say like 29 existing owners in that case. And what happens in the back end is only going to create one owner record. But it will import the other 30 properties and attach it to the one owner. Okay, that's what happens in the background. Now, what you will notice, and I think your question kind of refers to that, is when you go now under Generate Documents and you generate your letter, we are only generating one letter for that owner. So in the case of us actually having 30 properties for one owner, even though we have 30 records under this screen right here, when you get to the Generate Documents, you'll only see one letter there. Now, to answer your question, what is better? Should you dedupe it before you upload it into the system or after? I tend to think that you should just leave it as is, like you should leave all the records in there and then upload it into the system. And the reason I say that is because when they call back, a lot of times the people will say, yeah, I mean, I own 30 properties. Sure, send me an offer on all 30 of them. Now, if you already have the 30 properties loaded into your system, then it's very easy for you to go in there, locate the files, right? So it might, let's say that these are the files. You locate all of them, you check them, and you can just move them into the next status, right? Pending preliminary research. If you don't have that, what we do is we're either going to, take the one record that we already have in the system and put a bunch of APNs. So like if the APN is this, let me go in here. Let's say that this person right here actually owns 30 properties. We might do something like this, add the APN in there, a space, another APN, another APN, another APN, right? But this gets quite messy on the templates. So it's not a recommended way of doing it, although it's a quick way of generating an offer for multiple properties without actually doing the work of entering in each of the properties. Now, you could also find the record. So if this person calls in, you would look them up, right? And so like in this case, if this person called, he would give you this number right here, which would be on his letter. So you say, okay, what is the letter, the number on your letter? You come over here, you'd look them up, and you open it up, and he says, okay, well, I actually own 3 properties or 30 properties or whatever. So now at this point, since you don't have all of these records in the system, you're going to have to click this button up here that says add more records. And what this is going to do is add more property records to this one owner. Okay, so it's still going to keep a single owner record, but it's going to allow you to create multiple property records. But to make it easy for yourself, I would just kind of keep it the way it is, where you're importing duplicates. Not duplicates, but you're importing all the properties that they own, because it is quite likely that if they want an offer, they would want an offer on all the properties. And at the same time, if they say, oh, no, I only want an offer on 5 properties out of my 30, it's easy enough to go in here, locate the 5, properties, then change those to the right status, the pending preliminary research. And then the other properties that they don't want offers on, you select them and you change them to like a file close or something like that, file closed, because they don't want an offer at that point on those ones. All right, so that's kind of the proper way to do it. So hope that answers your question. If not, send me another little message there. Okay, so yeah, I had another one down here. Let's see. What is the best way to work your offer request leads in order by the date that they came into the Investment Dominator? Okay, this is a new question I've never heard before. Normally, and this is kind of, like I said, the Investment Dominator is kind of based on the processes that we do internally and that we teach to our students. So Jack always talks about like this concept of everything is in buckets, and we do we do certain tasks on different days. So like, for example, we would choose, let's say that Mondays we would say, or Fridays we're going to send out our letters. So every Friday we'll send out a batch of letters. On, let's say, Mondays or Tuesdays, we say we're going to make offers on those days. And on Fridays, we're going to go and do property research or something. Bottom line is we pick certain days to do certain tasks, and so these properties fall into buckets. And how we kind of illustrate that in the program, or build it into the program, is we actually work off what's called this like a report screen. So if I go here, you can see that these are kind of like our buckets. So like when we do our mailings, you'll see like, like you sent out 500 letters. You'll see 500 here. And then when you get when you add the letters that come back and are returned to you to your skip tracing bucket, let's say, or status, it gets put into this bucket. So when this number right here hits like 300 or 500, something like that, we would actually click on this, and we would work all these records at one time and get all the new addresses and then move them back. So, and we would take maybe like 1 day to do that. The same thing for the offer request. So like if over here, let me just choose a couple of these and move them into the offer request status, which is the pending preliminary research status. If we logged in one day, like let's say on a Tuesday, we're like, okay, we wouldn't actually, we're going to click on this, and we're going to see everybody that requested an offer. But to answer your question, we're not really looking at the dates at that point, because what we're doing is just doing all the research on one day and making the offers. So that's kind of our internal process. Now, if you wanted to look at the dates, you would have to actually go into the edit screen. So you want to be under edit, and you could see, the date created and the last updated. And those are the only real dates that we have. Now, once you make the offer, we do store the date. For example, under when you actually make the offer, you're going to put in an offer amount. You can put in the date that you want the offer accepted by, and then the offer expires. So those are the only other two dates that we store in the system. But I guess to really answer your question is our internal processes don't really we don't find a need to look at things by date, because when we take the calls, we tell the people right on the phone, like, okay, we got your information. What we're going to do at this point is we're going to do some research on your property, and then we're going to send you out a written offer, and we say it's going to take usually 7 to 10 days. Now, because land is not a very competitive investment like houses are, we can take 7-10 days and there's no problems with that. So we've done that forever. And there's no issues where they sold the property in 7-10 days. Typically, you're the only one contacting them anyways. But we just give them 7 to 10 days. Now, in reality, once a week or twice a week, we're going to go in here, make all our offers, and then generate our documents. And that's why also when you get to the generate documents section. So like if I come in here and I just say, okay, the market value of this is $12,000, save it, and then I'm going to make an offer like 13, 25, 33, and save that. Then go down to the next one, blah blah blah, and save all these records. What you're going to find now is at that point we go under generate documents, and we have this bulk action to generate all of our offers at the same time. So in one day, we usually will have anywhere from, let's say, 10 to 30 offer requests. We do the research on one day, but then we'll come in here and generate all these offers on another day. And then as soon as that's done, we move them to the next status. So everything is done in buckets. So I hope that answers your question. It's just not something that we look at the date that it came in and the date that we made the offer. We just don't look at it in that sense. We always look at it in terms of buckets. So let me know if that makes sense. If not, send another question in. Is a changelog published anywhere? No, that's a good question. Now, yes and no. So we have this section right here. If we had like a known issue that was like a bigger issue that we couldn't solve, in a couple of days, or if it's something that is affecting a lot of users, right now we have no issues like that. But if we did, we would post it here. Now, if it's something like that's a minor issue that we fix in a matter of 15 minutes or a couple hours or something like that, we're actually not posting those ones on here. But that's a good idea. Changelog, for the different, because we do make minor changes all the time. Like I said, the last one was a few days ago. So yeah, if you're interested in that, if you wouldn't mind, I would go into your Investment Dominator, click on Help, and click on Have a Suggestion, and just take the time to fill this out and just literally just say like, hey, if you could add a changelog to the user guide or something, that would be very helpful. Again, we're going to add that to our list, and if that's something that a lot of people find value in, we're going to bump that up and make that a reality pretty soon. All right, so answer your question, no, we don't have it at this time, but it's something that we definitely can add. And so just send us a feature request on that. All right, so I'm not getting any, oh, nope, I got a bunch of more questions in here. So let me come back up. Where did they go? Let's see here. Oh, my arrows are not working. Okay, so is there a tutorial for getting the list from the county that shows the heading that we should set up? The heading that we should set up. Is there a tutorial for getting the list from the county? I'm not quite sure what that means. So there is a tutorial on how to get the list, but it's not in the Investment Dominator, because the Investment Dominator is just a software. The Land Profit Generator 2.0 is Jack's latest course. That talks about all the technique. So part of the technique is getting the list from the county. Okay, so in the so you actually want to log into your actual course, your home study course. Go to the section on how to get the list. And that's where Jack explains to you how do you go to the county, get the list, or how do you go to Agent Pro 247 and get the list, or there's another one called Rebo Gateway. How do you go and approach them and get the list? So there's many different ways to get the list. Now, I think I kind of understand what you're talking about heading here. You're talking about the header row, I think, in the list itself. So yes, in that sense, if you go to the user guide, and I'll just pull it up here, you type in import. This is the one that I was showing you earlier. So if it's a land list, you go to this tutorial here, and if you go down to this section right here where it says required fields, all the required fields are in this red or orange color. These are the absolute minimum fields that you need to have in your list before you import them into the Investment Dominator. So to answer your question about the headings that you're going to request from the county, now the county doesn't have a type field. Like every county that I know of, they don't have this field. So this is something that you're going to have to add, and it's either going to be because the person is an individual and they have a first and last name, or it's a company and they only have a company name in that sense. So this type field is something that you definitely add after you get the data from the county. The first and the last name also is something that the county doesn't usually have. What they usually have is something called like assessed owner, property owner, or name. And typically what is stored in there is the last name first, all in caps, and the first name, then the first name, or they might put in the middle initial or middle name or multiple people on there, and it's all stored in one field, bottom line. Now, to get it into the investment dominator, you actually have to have it in two separate fields. You got to have the first name by itself and the last name by itself, and you definitely want to take it out of caps and put it into a proper case. Now, all that stuff that I'm explaining now is covered in the investment or in the land profit generator. And it's also something that Jack recommends in the land profit generator to get outsourced to a data processor, because instead of doing it all manually, it can be done programmatically. But it does have to be done on a case-by-case basis, county by county, because what you will find after doing this business for a long time is that every single county in the United States, unfortunately, has their own processes. They store data differently. They have different names for stuff. They save it differently and all that good stuff. So you have to have a data processor look at it, take a look at the file and see how the county is actually storing the data. And then from there, they create rules and a formula to create this type field, create this first name, last name, or split off the company and things like that. Now, the counties typically do have owner address, city, owner state, owner zip. So you're just going to have to change those ones to address, city, state, zip. And then the APN, I've seen them call it a parcel number, an account number, a sequence number, I mean, all kinds of different names. But bottom line, this is the number that is the property number, which is unique to the property. I mean, it's like the social security number of the property. So every county is going to have a number like that. They might not call it an APN. So whatever they call it, you're going to have to change that field to be called APN. County, property, county, state, most counties do not have this information because they assume, okay, if you're getting a list from our county, you know what county it is. So you literally have to create a new column called property county, put in the name of the county, and then just copy that value down all throughout your list. And that's something that's easily done in Excel or Access or with a data processor. It takes a few seconds to do. It doesn't have to be done record by record. Same thing with property state. You just need to know the state that the property is located in, which is the county and state that you're dealing with, and then that's the same value all throughout your list. But it is a required field, so all of these are required fields. The only caveat is that, and the reason why this one is orange, is that only if the type equals company do you have to have a company name. And in that case, your first and last name can be blank. But if it's set to individual, it's kind of like the opposite. The first and last name are mandatory. You got to have some kind of value in there. And the company one is then optional at that point. And the other thing, the other caveat there is when I say company, I mean trust, I mean church, I mean bank. I really mean anything that doesn't have a first and last name. Okay? So hopefully that answers your question. Now those are the headers that you're going to request. Now again, just to be sure, you can't call the county up and say, hey, I need a first to last name field, company field, address, city, state field, because they're going to be like, well, you're going to get the fields that we have in our database. And so, but you can say, okay, do you have a field where you store the owner's name? Yes, we do have a field like that. Do you have a field where you store the owner's address? Yes, we have a field like that. So again, that's kind of how you request it from the county. And then you just go from there. Do you have a parcel number or something that indicates the property? It's a unique number. Yes, it's called an account number. Okay, can you include that in the list? That's kind of how that conversation goes. All right, so change log tutorial for heading. If you're using letter printing company, a letter printing company, do I click the export and then send that to the letter printing company? Yes. So great question. We get this all the time. So yes, if you're using a letter printing company, the one that we recommend, but it's you can use whatever you want, is letterprinting.net. So it's this company right here, letterprinting.net. I think it's TITI is the real name of the company, but letterprinting.net. We like this company because it allows you to do an envelope that doesn't have a little window in it. It allows you to put a real stamp on it, which is awesome, and that's what we do. And they use our template. They are very familiar with us. Now, we also, because we use them quite a bit ourselves and our students, a lot of our students do, we have put a tutorial under the user guide for this. So if you type in letter printing maybe, .net, here you go. This tutorial actually covers the exact steps that they need, because one of the things that they require, and again, this is a separate company, so one of the things that they require is a template document that that is in a PDF format. Okay, so they require one template file from you, not a merged document. So, and this kind of goes to what you're getting at in your question. You don't want to actually send them this file here that's already been merged, the one that I just showed you here, that's got all of these letters in it. They won't use that, because they are a professional printing company and they do things in passes. So they'll do like a color pass where they'll print off the blue color, and then they'll do a black and white pass for your letters. And then if you have some kind of like a letterhead, they'll do a color letterhead pass as well. So that they have a different process for printing than you would on your home. So you definitely don't want to send them this file. What you do want to do, to answer your question, is click on the export data link, which is only going to export these records that are that need to be generated where you're going to send out this neutral letter. So click on this. It's a subset of your entire list. And one thing that you'll notice when you do that is it exports only the fields that you need for your mailing. So this is the ID number, the owner ID number that we print on the letters and the envelopes, and then obviously the property, state, county we use in the letter. We use the APN, we use the first and last name, the company name, the mailing address of the owner, obviously, and that all is used. So you have to send this to them so that they can do the merge themselves. And the other thing is you got to, and follow the tutorial, because I don't really have time to go through it right now, but you got to send them this template file which is something that you create. So the fastest way that you can create it is just to select one record and then click Generate Documents. And so I have one record selected here, and then I'm going to go under Neutral Prospect Letter, which is the letter that we're going to set up with letterprinting.net, and I'm going to click on it as a Word document. So that's the key. Once I get it into Word, what they require is, and I'll go back to the tutorial for this, they require that you create these little placeholders with the less than signs and the greater than signs, and that in the middle of that you use the actual headers of your file. So if, so for example, in my file, I already closed it out, so let me go back over here. Let me bring up this exported file. Again, this is the file that you send to letterprinting.net. You can see that we have header names. So our header name for the first name field is called OR_ first name. So what letterprinting.net wants is you to go in your template, and where it says their name, they want you to actually type in lesson, put in the name of your field, greater than space in this case, and then go and do the next name, which is the last name field, and then here. So you got to go through this entire document and switch out all these placeholder, or all these points where we are merging something, and I'll kind of just highlight them here, and you got to switch it out with their mail merge placeholders, okay? Because what you actually send them now is you go up here and click File, Save As, and you're going to save this as a PDF because they want it in a PDF format. So save it as a PDF format, and then you send them that PDF. And what they're going to do is they're going to run it through their own system, like I said, and their system is going to search for stuff like this. And what it's referring to is the file that you sent them. So if the headers don't match up, then they're going to call you up and say, hey, you know, your file doesn't make sense. So just make sure, bottom line is we have a tutorial on this. I would go through this, and if you have any questions on this, just let us know through the by creating us a ticket or asking us a quick question through the help section. But this covers in detail exactly the process for letterprinting.net. Now, that doesn't mean that if you use another printer like Kinko's or whatever, that they have their own process. So we only have a tutorial for letterprinting.net because we ourselves use letterprinting.net, and so we are familiar with their requirements. Okay, so hopefully that answers that question. And how do you use the skip trace tab, moving people and properties in and out? Okay, great question. Everything in the system is status based. So when somebody calls in, or actually not when somebody calls in, when you actually get a returned letter back and it says, returned sender, bad address, whatever it is, the post office is going to send it back to you. What you're going to do is look at the ID that's on the letter, and you're going to come in here and put that ID in there. Now, let me grab an ID. So, for example, here's an ID here. So I'm going to come in here. I'm going to say owner ID reference letter number. I'm going to type in the number that I see on my letter, and then I'm going to click search. I'm going to highlight this or select it, and then I'm going to say change status to skip trace. Okay. Now, all that does is it moves this record into a bucket, right? I talked about the buckets earlier. And so we don't actually do anything with it until we get a certain number of these. And then when our designated day, like our skip tracing day, then we would come over here and we go to skip trace and click on it, and we would actually bring up those records and then do the skip tracing through a service like TLO.com, for example, or Spokio.com, and then we would find the new address of the person. Now, once we find the new address, the process is that you go into the record, you type in the new address, right? Because here's the bad address. You're going to type in the new address here, and then once you do that, change the status from skip trace, because you've already skip traced it. Move it back into prospect, because once you move it back into prospect, now you can generate a neutral letter for that person again. So it gets kind of put into the bucket of your next mailing, and that's kind of how our processes work. So again, it gets thrown into this big bucket of prospects, which now you can come back over to generate documents when you do your next mailing, and it'll be part of that new mailing. So that's our process on skip tracing. Now, the other way you can do it is if you're not doing the skip tracing part yourself, like you can actually outsource it to a different company. And in that case, you can just click the export data on the line where it says skip trace, and this is only going to export the records. In this case, there was 4 records under skip trace, and I could then send this list to my skip tracing company that I'm outsourcing, and they would actually just come back and send me another spreadsheet of the corrected addresses. So that's another way of doing it, but bottom line, if you do it that way, or either way, let's say either way that you do it, you're going to have to come back into the program and move them back into the prospect status and put in the correct address, because everything in this program is based on statuses. It's based on this concept of putting things into buckets and us doing, consolidating our time by day or by blocks of time, basically. All right, hopefully that answers that question. When you're outsourcing for the formatting list, so for like data processing, I assume, what Excel document do you send them? Okay, so when you're outsourcing for the formatting, the county is going to send you the list in whatever format they can get it into. Okay, and again, it depends on the county, right? So, or system that you're using to get the list. But what you do definitely want to make sure that you write down and do is when you are talking to the county, make sure that you tell them, like, hey, I need this in a digital format. I need it in a .xls file, a .csv file, a .mbd file. All those are digital formats, and you can get a complete list of them in the land profit generator where Jack talks about getting the list. He mentions, the formats that you should request them in. But assuming that you follow that and you get it in the right format, a digital format, meaning it's not a PDF, it's not a printout, it's not anything like that that a data processor would just not work with. If you get it in some kind of a database-driven file, then you just send that file, whatever it is, to your data processor. Because a good data processor is going to be able to take that, convert it into whatever format that you need, do the formatting, and then at the end of the day, they're going to follow the instructions here under the import. They're going to follow the instructions, because I would actually send them this user guide article, and they're going to follow these instructions, and then they're going to output it with the required fields, and they're going to output it as a .csv file. So the answer to your question is, the only real requirement when you're getting the list from the county and then sending that to the data processor is that it's got to be in some type of a database-driven file, an Excel file, like I said, Excel file, an Excel file, or what I want to say, a Microsoft Access file, or even a text file. Like if it ends in .txt, those work as well too. And if you're unsure, just ask your data processor. Just ask them what file format do you prefer to work with, and they'll give you a list, or they'll just tell you which one, and then you just go back to the county and say, okay, if you can get it into this format, then that would be perfect, and then send it to me, and then you just forward it onto your data processor. All right, hopefully that answers your question there. And what else we got? I think we've got all. Let me just go to the top here. All right, I think we got all the questions answered right now. If there's any questions that come in, in the next few seconds here, I'll take a look once before I leave. Otherwise, I do want to remind you, we did go a little long. I want to try to keep these calls at a half an hour. But this is the first one, so we went a little long. The next class is going to be on Monday. And so, if you're registered for this one, you're registered for the next one. You'll get a notification from GoToWebinar about that, so you can jump on there. Or at some point, and I probably going to be in the next few days, we're going to post the recording of this one, and we will either send it out to you, or it just will be upon request if you want this. So I'll probably end up posting it somewhere on the user guide somewhere, and then sending a link out. But it does take a few days for us to process everything and upload it and everything, and especially because this call took a little longer. All right, so if you have any further questions, jump on the call, or else click on the next call on Monday. Else, go ahead and click the help button. If you want to send a message to me in particular, I always read the ones that are in the middle. If you choose this middle option, so I'm always reading these ones. So if you want to ask me a particular question throughout the week, click the middle option here, send me a message. If it's something that relates to some kind of a file or some message that you're seeing, take a screenshot of it or send me the actual file. That speeds up the whole entire process, and I am happy to answer any questions you have. All right, let's check one last time if anything new came through, and I don't. Outsourcing for, nope, we're good. So with that, I hope you guys learned something new about the software, and I will talk to you again on Monday. Have a great rest of your day, guys.